I'm going to get into my lesson right now about finding stuff on your frames. And what I want to do tonight is talk to you guys about frame inspections and finding, start off by finding the queen on a frame. So you're lifting up a frame, you want to find your queen. Is she doing okay? And this is really cool because I took a picture of one of the frames that I was inspecting on video. And as you can see here, here's the queen surrounded by a retinue. And a retinue is just a group of bees, anywhere from 10 to 20 plus bees that are kind of the queen's court. They follow her, they take care of her, they feed her, they clean her, they absorb pheromones, they spread pheromones. So if you're lucky enough to be struggling finding your queen and she doesn't have that nice red dot on her, then you can always keep looking for that retinue that's surrounding her. Now, she doesn't always have a retinue. Sometimes she's out there all alone and the retinue's kind of spread out and doing their thing. So don't expect it every time. In that case, you're going to be looking for a frame with eggs on it, because when the queen is laying eggs, that's how you know the queen is nearby. There'll be eggs on that frame standing straight up in the frame. I'll show you that in a minute. And so I like to look for my queen by starting on the edges of the frame as I'm holding it up, because if she's on the edge, she's likely to walk over onto the other side that I'm not looking at. So I look at the edges first, and then I work my eyes kind of around a circle toward the center, scanning for the queen. So I start on the outside edge and I keep looking toward the inside of the frame. And look at this queen. If you're trying to find her, her wings are shorter. And so you can see that it's her abdomen that is longer. And so in this case, she looks different than the other bees, because if you look at their wings, then you can tell that their wings go almost back to their abdomen. And so the queen's wings appear to be shorter. That helps you identify her. She's a little bit longer on her abdomen. Sometimes the thorax is a little bit better as well. Oh, okay. Somebody just told me, that my live stream is set to unlisted. That's why people can't find us. That's why people can't get here. And I don't think I can change that right now, but I'm going to try. Give me a second here. I'll interrupt this broadcast for a brief attempt to make my live stream public. Somehow that got changed, or I messed up. I might try to do that real quick here, and we'll get back to the teaching. So I think I can. All right, let me see here. Is that true? Is it set to public? Oh, it is set to unlisted. Well, that's no good. All right, well, I just set it to public. All right, here we go. All right, so I set it to public, but I want to cry because I seem like I knocked a lot of people out by making unlisted. And but now it's public, so maybe people can find their way back in or get there. Well, fingers crossed, okay? Sorry about that. Wow, my imperfections keep showing through as I get older. No, my imperfections have always been apparent. I do a lot with, podcasts and live streams and videos, and I create everything, and just sometimes you click the wrong darn button. So sorry about that. So let's get back to talking about our queen. By the way, if you're watching this, if you're just getting in because I fixed something, welcome and thank you. And you'll have to watch the replay of this. Don't think that all is lost. You can always watch it again from the beginning. But I see our numbers are climbing now. So thanks, guys. Just made a boo-boo. All right, so I'll continue on. Start looking around the edges to try to find your frame. And then you can also just notice the queen. She looks different. She's a little bit larger, and her thorax to me always seems much bigger. All right. So got a lot of slides to run through here. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. Finding your eggs on your frames is one of the most important things to do. And it's one of the most hardest things to do. It's crazy. Now, I used to have some sort of a weird fisheye lens, so it's distorted. But just look at the center one here. and you can see an egg down in the center. That's how small eggs are. That's what you're looking for. So in order to see eggs, you got to have some visual assistance if you're farsighted like me. And I have to wear reader glasses like the ones I have on now, or a magnifying glass. But it's even cool to take your cell phone. Don't try to find eggs. Just take pictures of your frames, come back inside, take your hat and veil off, get something cold to drink, sit down on your computer or zoom in on your phone, and then you can see the eggs much better. That's kind of cool to do it that way. Now, another way you can find eggs, look for larvae and then keep circling closer by where the larger larvae is, because they're easier to find. And as you keep looking beyond the larvae, the eggs will be on the outside of the larvae. Now, the queen's laying 2,000 eggs a day, so you're wanting to find a lot of eggs. That's really important. And so the more frames of eggs that you see, the better it is. Don't give up. You need to find those frames of eggs. Also, you don't want to see multiple eggs in one cell. That either means there's a brand new queen who's laying and she's just circling back and laying multiple eggs in cells, or it means that you have a laying worker. As you can see here, let me show you a close-up of that. Now, on the left, this is a hive that has a laying worker. Obviously, there's a big drone there. But see all the multiple eggs down in those cells? That means that there's no more pheromones from the brood or the queen present to clamp down the laying workers. There's always a lot of laying workers. You can't shake the laying workers out, people. They're foragers. They forage a while, they come back, they lay a while. Don't believe the old myth that, you can shake your bees out and that one little laying worker won't be able to find the hive back. That's not true at all. She will find her way back. So the next slide over here on the right, you can see I've kind of showed you the eggs in the cell. Then you can see compared to how small they are, you can see the larvae and that worker sitting there too. Okay, let's talk about the larvae. Now, larvae is a plural, meaning lots of larva, in case you are wondering how to say that correctly. So we're referring to one larva or many larvae. By the way, no matter what people tell you, the proper pronunciation of more than one larva is larvae. I love saying that, larvae. It's easy. Some people say larvae. Okay, maybe it depends on where you live, but it's larvae. They're easier to see, as you can see in the image here. They're kind of like a worm, a grub, people call them, and they're going to be more toward the center of the brood nest area. And that's we'll start seeing them develop into a larvae about 3 days after the egg was laid. So day 1, 2, and 3, they're an egg. Then the egg encloses into the larva stage. And it remains a larva from day 4 to day 9. So that's how many days that they are a larva sitting in your cells of your frame. So you lift the frame up, you see this larvae. You want to make sure they're pearly white. Okay. I've got an image here of a not so good larva. And as you can see, it's twisted. And it's kind of like what's going on there, right? That's the head actually coming up. And this is evident of European foul brood. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but it gives you a contrast that all larvae should be laying in a circle down on the bottom or the back of the cell, and it should be well fed. So you're looking for pearly white, and you should not see the spiracles. For those of you that are more advanced beekeepers, you don't want to be able to see the spiracles that predominantly. That's a sign of European foul brood. All right, so let's talk about the pupa. Same thing, plural is pupae. And they're easier to see because they're capped over. And here's an example of a beautiful capped over frame of pupae. And you can tell here, they are pupae once they're capped over on day 9. That's not from the egg. Oh, yeah, it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then from they're going to be a pupae from day 10 to about day 20. 21 is when we expect that the adult bee to emerge on day 21 as a worker. Day 24, for the drones, 23, 24, day 16 for the queen. So in the case of pupa, what you're looking for when you look at a frame is you're looking for cap brood, and the cappings look dry. I'll show you a frame of honey in just a second. Get a good look at this frame. Now it's drier. I call it like a kind of a fabric look. It's got this interesting kind of a fabric, more drier capping to it. That's how you get to distinguish it. By the way, the numbers over here, I've shown this on my live stream before, and that number actually shows you can take a 100 cells in a square and see how many uncapped cells there are that maybe are open that the queen didn't lay in. Subtract the number and you get a percentage of queen viability. Is that the right word? And so it shows you how well your queen's laying. Brood viability is what it's called. And so in this case, it's not bad. 94%. You're always going to have some open cells like that. There can be imperfections in the comb itself or the plastic foundation. There could be, somebody just got too careless and they put some pollen in there. And the queen's like, I can't lay my egg in some pollen. So those things are just going to happen. But the capping does look a little bit drier. So if you're looking at bee bread, here's a frame of bee bread. I took this picture a couple of days ago, and it's kind of hard to see. It's a little bit dark. But you notice you'll find bee bread on the outer edges of the brood nest area toward the wall usually. And it may be even beyond where the honey is. But it's actually pollen that has enzymes in it and saliva from the bees. And so it looks like pollen sometimes that's kind of wet. It looks like wet pollen. And what happened is it's fermentation. It's going on. It's fermenting. And so bee bread is a food source that bees eat. It's good for them. Fermenting vegetables are good for us, like sauerkraut. So it's just another nutritional thing that the bees do kind of by storing their pollen, by letting it ferment like that. Here's a frame of honey. If you remember the frame of brood that we saw, now notice the cappings here on the honey. This is not nectar, by the way. For those of you that are new to beekeeping or you're thinking about getting into beekeeping, remember there's a big difference between honey and nectar. Honey is when it's been dried down by the bees to around 18, 19% moisture level. And before it gets that dried out, they don't cap it over. They keep drying it, and that's called nectar. So when they go get nectar from nectaries of flowers, it's very moist. They bring it in, they dry it down. Once it's capped over at the right moisture level, then we call it honey. So you can see here that it is capped over, and I'm actually harvesting or uncapping the wax cappings. But notice how you can tell the difference. Usually the cappings are very white. They're new to that year, and they're very waxy. And so these don't look like our other picture of brood that was more fabric looking. This looks like almost like wet white cappings. That's how you can tell the difference. All right. So now here's nectar. Nectar, this is not honey, although look in the middle there. You can see about 6 or 7 cells that have been capped over. So the bees are monitoring that, and they were like, aha, we reached 18%, cap that over. So, this is in the process of being capped over. And once it gets this way, if the bees aren't needing it for food, they will cap that frame over really quickly with wax. They produce the wax from day 12 to day 17 years old or days old on their abdomen, underneath their abdomen or their wax glands. And so they'll just take that wax and start capping that over, much like when you or your grandma used to can food, the canning jars, you boil it, put your food in there, put the lid on to keep all the bacteria and stuff out of there. That's what bees are doing as well. So this is not honey. This is nectar because it's open. It's not capped over yet. And it's too wet. They're trying to dry the moisture out of it. And so this means this is probably higher moisture content than 18 or 19%. And the bees are still working there to dry that down. Now, let's talk about pollen. This is where bees go to flowers. They get nectar, and their job is to kind of really spread that pollen around. And so that's the way that they are germinating, are actually helping flowers, plants, and trees reproduce by moving that pollen around. And they're rewarded for doing it by getting a bunch of nectar. Well, they get a little bit of pollen they get to take back and use it as a protein food source for their colony. And as you can see in this image, there can be different colors of pollen. It can be purple, red, white, black, all different colors. I get a lot of email questions like, oh no, what's wrong with my hive? And you'll see just 5 or 6 plugs in the cell of dark brown pollen, and it looks like a disease or something. Now, look, this is something you don't see very often. You have some competition here between the queen laying eggs, and now that's become larvae, about 7 or 8 day old larvae, and they're still putting pollen in the brood area. Now, you don't see that all the time unless you're kind of looking at the rainbow effect of a frame. Sometimes you can see that where it's more on the outer edges of where the brood is, you'll see pollen. But this looks mixed together. So this is just bees competing. We want to bring pollen in, and the queen's saying, well, I need to lay some eggs everywhere. And this is going to happen. So that's what pollen looks like. Now this is something none of us want to see. I don't want to make you paranoid or fearful about this, but AFB, American foul brood, this is an example of the brood that does look waxy, and it shouldn't. So in other words, we know that, capped over honey looks sort of waxy because the honey kind of gets saturated into the wax at the top of the cell. But in this case, this is not good. It's perforated brood, and it smells very bad. It's like you want to throw up when you smell it. It's that bad. But this is a bacteria disease that gets into the brood. There's other things. I've made a lot of videos, or several videos, on American foul brood. I encourage you to watch those to get a little more up to speed on just making sure you know what you're looking for. But look for greasy cappings of brood or perforated brood that also smells. You can always do a little toothpick trick. Any of those capped cells, you can poke a toothpick in there, slosh it around, and draw it out slowly. And if the contents follow you out as a rope more than a half inch or so, it's American foul brood. And in that case, like here in Illinois, got to burn them, got to burn all the hives. Now let's talk about European foul brood. A lot of people don't really think too much about European foul brood, but it can be a problem. And sometimes a lot more beekeepers have it than not. But I showed you a picture of twisted brood. And I also said you don't want to see the spiracles in the bees. So you can see the spiracles, the breathing tubes of that larva that's developing there. And so you really shouldn't see that. That's not pearly white. You can see it's disintegrating, it's discolored, and sometimes they can be gray and black because they too have a bacteria and they're sick and they're injured and they're dying. So these are things you don't want to see. This could indicate you have European foul brood when you see this. Now, I have seen larvae that have stood up at times in their frames. If you're doing queen grafting and you bring some frames into the shop and you're going to graft some, 1 day old larvae, and there's some other older larvae on there, sometimes you can see that those larvae will start to kind of be attracted to stand up to the light, or they want fed because you took them out of the hive and they're standing up to be fed. So I've seen them do that before too. And it doesn't mean they have European foul brood. It means that they want fed and they are attracted to the light. Okay, let's talk a couple more things here, and then we're going to have a question and answer time. But during your frame inspection, we're always wanting to find have an eye out for supersedure cells. And as you can see here, this is one time before, this is way back before they invented plastic pushing cages. And so we always made our own queen cages out of hardware cloth, 1/8 inch hardware cloth. And so we can kind of protect queens. If this one's ready to emerge, when she does, they can still feed her through the cage, but she won't get away. And I can have time to go capture the 2 supersedure cells here, and otherwise they'll fight, want to be killed. So I just put those in there to capture each queen as they emerge. But these are supersedure cells and that I put a cage over. And this picture shows also bee bread, some capped over brood, and queen emerge from the cell. So you can see one cell there. Oh yeah, it looks like it's upside down to me, but I'm not able to see up close. But it looks like the queen has already emerged from that cell there. That's why I protected those other two, perhaps. And you see some capped over honey, more of a kind of a waxy, wet-looking capped over honey in that corner. I hope that this helps you guys. Yeah. Okay, and then I think this is my last slide today. Swarm cells. Swarm cells are usually, oh, let me go back to supersedures. See, supersedures are in the middle to the upper part of the frame. And there's usually just one or two supersedure cells, not many at all. But over here, we can see that there's a bunch of swarm cells that are forming irregular spot here on the bottom of that comb. The comb didn't go all the way down to the bottom of the frame. It stopped, and that made a convenient spot for them to raise some swarm cells. Anybody see anything unusual here? Looks like to me that one has already emerged on the far left. That's either already the cap has been cut off of that and the queen has walked out, or it's pretty close. I can't tell the difference on that slide, but that's what your swarm cells look like on a frame that has a bottom part there. Oh, yep, there is another one. I said that I would mention what mites look like on drone pupae. And this is a hive I took out of a house several years ago. And as we were doing it, several of my workers were like, wow, look at the drones that have all these mites on them, you know? And back then I didn't have a good camera, but I got a decent picture. This poor drone has at least 4 mites on it. Isn't that awful? And so that's to give you an idea. That's what you're looking for if you've never seen a mite. And yikes, that's terrible. All right. Hey, I hope that was kind of beneficial for you guys on what to look for when you're out looking at your hives. Hey, big shout out to Leah and Vera. And yeah, she was trying to make this donation. Thanks, Leah. And Vera says hi. That's my one of my granddaughters, and she loves to watch her papa on the TV set at home. So we always have to say hi to Vera, and happy birthday week to Vera too. Yay! Happy birthday! Hey, thanks for the super sticker again. $5 there. I appreciate that. Hey, I want to also let you know that we have a giveaway coming up in just a few minutes, and I'll see other announcements here. Make sure I get everything straight here. Oh, looks like I'm good to go here. All right, guys. Yeah, good to be with the Beak Squad tonight. 2 days ago, I captured a swarm from one of my own hives, and I now want to combine it back to the original hive. The swarm's queen was pinched. Can I use a newspaper when adding them back? I don't see any reason why you can't do that. I really don't. I think that would be fine to try that. It sounds like you deliberately decided that you wanted to put that swarm back together, but here's the deal. That hive wants to swarm, and depending on how long they've been out, it doesn't take long for them not to ever merge again. So that newspaper idea is a good way to do it because, you know, queen pheromone is strong in both sets. Hey, Timothy, I'm getting my first nuke next Saturday. Is there anything special I need to do this time of the year? Tim, I hope you're not getting your nukes from me because that's going to be the middle of May. Some people are thinking our package B day in a few days is also our nuke pickup, but our nuke pickup is in the middle of May. So, all right, you're getting yours. Is there anything special I need to do for this time of the year? Timothy, I would say do the regular bee stuff. Get them into your brood box, give them plenty of room to grow in that single box. And then within a week or two, add a second box, bait them with moving one frame up to the second box of open larvae. Now that you know what that looks like, doesn't matter where the queen is. And just, it wouldn't hurt to feed them if they're drawing out new comb. Hey, Brian, how are you doing? If my hive is honey bound, can I take the frames of nectar and spin them to clean them out? Excellent idea, Brian. Absolutely, you can. Yeah. But you're left with nectar. It's honey bound, right? It wasn't nectar. Oh, it's kind of nectar bound, I think is what it sounds like. But I understand what you mean. So when you spin it out, either you have to eat it really quick before it ferments with that much moisture in it. And I've done that before, actually. And or you're going to have to just feed it back to the bees, find some way to utilize it that way. But yeah, I wouldn't bottle it and sell it to a customer if the moisture level is upwards of 19 or 20% moisture or higher. Use a refractometer to make that decision. It could be nectar that's, harvestable. It could be 18%. But yeah, you can definitely do that. Oh, hi, David and Sherry. Have a question. I took your queen class, but it didn't talk too much about banking queens. Could you please talk about it tonight on our live chat? Yeah, absolutely. I saw you leave that comment on YouTube, and I appreciate that in the comment section. Glad you came and asked it here to help a lot of people. All you do is take all of the queens that you have and take them down to First National Bank of your town and ask them if they would put these in the safe for you. See if they would bank them. No, I'm kidding. You don't bank them that way, but it's similar. So the way that I always like to bank my queens, I've got some I got to bank here in a few weeks, I think, maybe this week. But what you want to do, put them in their little cages. I use California mini cages. And I usually do put a candy plug, a little bit of candy in there, but I don't need that. But I made a frame that holds my California mini cages perfectly, where you just kind of wedge it in there. I've made some videos on that. And once you wedge it in there, all the screens you put your queens in there, and the cages are facing out. You go to a hive that has 2 deeps on it, put a queen excluder in the middle, put your real queen down at the bottom below the queen excluder, and just put the bank of your queens in their cages so they can't get out in the top deep. Now, 9.5 times out of 10, that works perfectly. They can be banked there. I've heard of other people banking them up in a super, but they need to be queens that were already laying really well and that you decided to bank them. It's not good to bank virgin queens very long. I do, but you don't want to bank them. If you bank them longer than 3 weeks, the virgin queens just really will never take a mating flight after that. So you got to, they got to keep things going. Let your new queen lay for a couple of weeks and then bank her. That works a lot better. Good question. All right. I did a split and it took me a day to get a queen. Okay. They seemed pleased with her, but when I came back 2 days later, they had thrown her dead body on the front porch. Okay. So what may be going on there is that they were in the process of raising a queen. You missed it. You didn't see it. They have their own queen in there. She was a virgin queen on a mating flight. And then when you gave them the new queen, they said, "Hey, we've already got a queen. Out with this new queen that you gave us, this foreign queen. We don't want her." That hopefully is what happened. So wait another maybe a week and reinspect to see if your queen is in there. Now, sometimes they will reject a queen that you bought, even though they're queenless. And that's especially true if you introduce them too quickly. And they need to slowly get the pheromones, eat through the candy. Hey, Robert. Brian asked my question. Thank you. Well, good job, Brian. And thanks, Robert. Glad your question got answered. And thank you for your donation tonight on our live stream. Yeah, appreciate that. Hey, Steve, I have a 2-week-old swarm that is now queenless somehow. There's 5 open queen cups with larvae in them. Good use of the word there. Will it last long enough to rear a queen, or should I add a frame from another hive? Wow, if I'm hearing you right, Steve, if you've got a 2-week-old swarm and they've got 5 open queen cups in there with larvae in them, that's going to be fine because swarms are young. The bees in a swarm are very young bees, so you're going to be okay with that. I wouldn't worry about it. Daniel, thank you for all you and your team does. Well, thank you. I do want to thank Jessica and Sherry tonight for being part of the live stream team. We never want to look them over for all they do. It's quite a commitment to be somewhere every single Thursday. It's amazing. Steve, good evening, David and Sherry. I got my first 2 nooks. I get my first 2 nooks tomorrow. The weather is terrible. Next 4 or 5 days, 55 degrees or less, rain. How long will the bees be okay in the nukes? And what about feeding? Hey, Steve, take a deep breath. Good for you for getting a nuke. Now, I hope you mean nuke, not a package. A package of bees are bees that don't have any comb. They're in a box. they're separate from their queen. But a nuke or a nucleus is 5 frames, around 5 frames, and the queen's already been laying and everything. So your nucleus, if prepared correctly, can weather things like this because they have stored honey and resources and bee bread or all that food's in there, and they have brood. They have a lot of bees already. The queen knows everybody. They're all just going to just sit in there and get warm and wait for a better day. So don't worry about it. If everything good, if you've got a well-prepared nucleus, it will be fine. Yep, absolutely. Ooh, we're doing good tonight, answering a lot of good questions. Why do bees make empty queen cups? Is there any reason for it? Yeah, I see that a lot in my hives. All through the summer, I'll be inspecting, and there'll be a queen cup. There'll be another queen cup. Some of those cups have been in there several years, and they're just like leaving it there. They leave those in there just in case they ever need them. Yeah, that's right. It's kind of like, well, if we ever have a quick need for a queen cup, we can have an emergency situation where our queen dies. And some believe, and some entomologists that I highly respect and read their books believe that in that case, they would pick up an egg out of a cell, a fertilized egg, and the workers would carry it over to that cup, and then they would raise a queen from it. So that's an experiment that we're just going to have to do to see do worker bees really carry eggs around because they're sticky. Todd, can a new emerged queen fit through the push-in plastic queen cage since they are queen excluder space and new queens are smaller? Good question. New queens are a tad smaller because, they don't really get larger because they're insects, but they do get larger because they're not fertilized. They haven't been mated. And so they're not pregnant. So they will get a larger abdomen once the ovaries or ovarioles are more full of eggs and all. So yes, and yes. Virgin queens can slip through queen excluders. Hey, Ross, is there any way I can tell if the queen from a recently 3-day installed package of bees is healthy by watching the landing board? Ross, this is a question that everybody asks so often. Can I tell the condition of the hive by looking at the bottom board? A lot of people say that if they're bringing in pollen, that means they have brood. But unfortunately, I've seen bees bring in pollen where I knew they didn't have a good queen in there or any brood. So bees will continue to be hopeful, especially if they're raising a queen. They're going to go out and get resources because they're pretty optimistic. No, you can't really tell much by that bottom board, unfortunately. All right. On a Damari split, how many supers can I put between the brood? I have 4 supers. Should I still put 1 or 2 on top? Wow, that's a lot. I usually put about 2 supers in between the deeps, the bottom deep and the top deep. It sounds like it's time for you to do what you're doing. I guess you can keep trying it. Here's the deal. I want to talk about Damari just for a second. I think Damari is a really tough cookie for some people to do, even as an experienced beekeeper. I know some people get their mind all wrapped around it and they start making these, there's one way to do Damari as you read about it, but then sometimes it doesn't all work out that way for you. And in this case, you got things happening. And so a lot of people ask me a lot of, I guess, what do we call it? It's just off the wall or out of characteristic of a Damari method. I got a Damari method going on, and so those are tough to figure out. They really are. So I really don't like Damari method, and I don't encourage people to go crazy with it just because it can be very complex and hard to keep up with unless you really become an expert with it. Hey, Katie, thanks for the super sticker tonight. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, really do. Hey, Sally. Hi, David and Sherry. I installed a 3-pound box of bees on Saturday. Good for you. The queen is out of her little box and all seems fine. My question is, how long before the bees start collecting pollen? It's going to take a warm day of foraging, 55 or 60 degree day, sunny, and you need to have resources, Sally. Not sure where you live, but you got to be able to have some blooming dandelions, fruit trees, something like that. And so they'll start bringing in pollen immediately once they get a foraging routine established, an orientation flight established, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, they definitely should be bringing in pollen. If the weather's warm and you got available pollen, they'll bring it in. Yep. June bug. My original queen's abdomen is looking darker near the tip. Is this a sign of old age? Her hive does have lots of mites. No, not really. We all change colors as we age a little bit. Our hair changes colors. We get gray. All of our children, when they were born, had blue eyes and blonde hair. I don't know if any of them have blonde hair and blue eyes anymore. And so even my children with really brown eyes like mine, and believe it or not, I used to have really dark brown hair. It changes. So when a queen, I raised a lot of queens, and when they first emerge, they are almost translucent. You can almost see through their body. They're so light color, and they do darken with age just because that's just what they do. So it's just not uncommon to see that. It's no sign that the mites did that, not at all. And it's no sign that your queen is too old. No, you just have to kind of keep track of that, and by marking her, keeping her age, and testing your mites and treating those mites as needed. Good question, though. Yeah, I like these honest, open questions. What's the advantage of having a medium box versus a double super? A medium box. Okay. They're telling me that might be like, I guess I don't understand the question. All right. Oh, any other questions you want to ask me tonight? Derek tried to make a split today to attempt to stop a hive from swarming. Okay. I took frames of one cap brood, one younger larvae, and one eggs, plus all bees from the frames. Does that seem like enough? Oh, I see. Okay. Cap brood, larvae, eggs. So one frame. So it looks like you took 3 frames, I'm guessing. That's what it looks like to me. That will work if you took the queen. So if you didn't take the queen and they're still in like, sound the alarm, we need to swarm, and the queen's still there and they're all preparing to swarm, taking 3 frames out may not do anything to stop the swarm. It can, they might say, we need to replace these 3 frames. I need to draw the wax out or something. But no, that's why I always like to take the queen. If I'm trying to stop a swarm, I take the queen. I know they're not going to swarm for 30 days. It takes 30 days to lay another queen and get her, to be an adult and get her mated and start laying again before they can swarm. So that's the big question. Grafted queens this year, and the bees closed the cells in building excess wax on the frames. What causes this, and what can be done about it? Hey, Dustin, this happens to me occasionally. When I first started raising queens a long time ago, I was frustrated because this would happen. And when I saw it, I would try to go out there and try to cut away the extra wax comb so that the tip of the cells would be exposed so the queen could get out. But usually that means you have the improper aged nurse bees. So, and what I mean by that is bees make a lot of wax between day 12 and day 17. So day 6 to 12, they don't have wax glands that are mature yet. So they can't do it. So if you build your starter hive and with only nurse bees of 6 to 12 day olds, they really won't make a lot of wax. There'll be some in there that they need a little bit because they're adding the cups, but that's usually that you got some older bees in there. We all do it. It happens. And sometimes bees make wax a little bit earlier in their 12th day anyway. So yeah. Also, another way to remedy that is to put 1 frame in your starter nuke with just foundation. That will force them to go over there and draw that out rather than building wax around your grafts, your cells. Yep. Good question. I know that can be frustrating. Hey, Homer, thank you for that super sticker. Appreciate it. All right, Brian. A friend of ours has a swarm that entered her house between floors through a hole in cedar siding. Can they be lured out or what is the best way to get them out? I don't say I'm an expert in too many areas, but I've spent so many years extracting bees out of houses and buildings and all kind of other areas. So I can answer this question as an expert. No, you cannot lure them out. Absolutely not. Now, some people will argue till the cows come home that they can, and I guess some people can. But all the stuff that I've ever tried to do has never worked. I've tried to do everything everybody has told me that works for them, and it won't work for me because let's face it, a beehive is an established super organism living happily between the floors of that house. There's no reason for them to leave. The queen's going to stay in there. Unless you get the queen, she's going to keep laying, replacing the foragers that you capture. So the only way to get them out effectively is to hire somebody that's really good at opening up homes like drywall, floorboard, and extracting all the comb out, filling that space with insulation so that if the hole is not plugged properly, they won't come into that that smells so good another swarm later, a few years. So it's got to be done correctly. It's a real expensive, labor intense project to get the bees out of a building. Absolutely. It's huge. It's just unbelievable. Hi, Dave. We caught a swarm today with the queen. Good. All right. We put the queen excluder on the bottom to keep her in there. How long do we keep it on before we remove it? Good. Thanks for asking. Here's the deal. There's two bees that cannot go through a queen excluder. One is a queen and two is a drone. Thanks, Paula, for becoming a member of the YouTube channel. And so these two bees, you want to keep your queen in, but you don't want to keep your drones in. They need to go out and mate, and they need to just go out and they're going to die. So what happens if you leave it on past maybe 10 or 14 days, the drones will try to wiggle through there and get stuck and die and get smelly and makes it hard for everybody else, the workers, to pass through there. Don't do it more than 10 to 14 days. Thank you for the super stickers that showed up. And I wanted to thank Paula for becoming a new member of the YouTube channel here. Remember, hold that up there for Carol for a minute. But I want to say that those of you that join and become members, you're supporting my efforts in making more videos on YouTube. You can become a Nectar novice or a Beak Squad ambassador. Just click on join below any of my videos and become a YouTube member on my page, and I really appreciate it. Carol Livingston, good to see you. How long will a queen stay out on a mating flight? Does she return every evening, or does she stay out until mated? That is a very good question, and here's what queens normally do. Thank you, Terry, for the super sticker. Queens will go out on a mating flight, and that usually takes, they're gone about 15 or 20 minutes. They come right back. Thank you, Justin. How can I determine how many hives? Okay, I'm gonna have to come back to Justin just after I finish the queen question. So the deal with the queen is that no, she might stay out if she's out mating and surprised by a horrible thunderstorm. She might duck down and land on a branch. She could spend the night there. I'm not saying it's not ever happen or never going to happen, but no, typically they only go out in good weather to mate. And they fly out, they mate, they fly out about 15 to 20 minutes. They go to a drone congregation area, mate with 20 plus drones, fly right back to the hive within 20 minutes. I've told my wedding party story, and that queen was gone about 7 minutes, I think. So it didn't take her long to go out and get mated. But no, they don't go out and stay until they're mated. They come right back. Okay, Justin. How can I determine how many hives 15 acres of land can support? Here's how you determine that. You go out and look to see how many resources you have in your area as far as nectar resources. As simple as that. If you're in the middle, if that 15 acres is covered by just clover and pasture that bees love, you could put a lot of hives on there, hundreds of hives on there. So it just depends on resources. Yeah. Well, we have a giveaway coming up, so don't forget about that. Hi, Mark. I'm looking to see if I had a glass of water. Here's one. Let's see how old that water is. I put my second box on 2 days ago with double wax foundation, and the bees still haven't gone up there. What should I do? Did you bait it? Did you take a frame from your lower box that had open brood on it and put it up in the top box? with bees and everything. That way they'll go up and they'll say, oh, wow, look at that. We need to start working this area up here. That's for sure. All right, let's go ahead and do our giveaway. I want to show you guys what we're giving away today. It is a Beak Squad tumbler. I don't know why they call that a tumbler. I guess if you put it on its side, it tumbles away. But it's a nice little drinking water container or whatever you want to do with it. And it's got the Beak Squad symbol on it. And so we'll start collecting comments. And so it's going to be hashtag tumbler is what we're going to use tonight. So hashtag tumbler in the comment section tonight. When you can win a Beak Squad tumbler. Hashtag tumbler, all lowercase, TUMBLER. And if you put your name in there more than once, it does not increase your chances to win. And so this is going to be a neat thing. Hey, I made a video today while we're collecting these comments. I made a video where I used a thermal imaging camera to actually see what my bees did. Last night, it got down to 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. And I wanted to see, you know, they're pretty established. It's not like a real winter colony, but they had to kind of cluster. And so that video is pretty cool. And what's neat about it is the company that sent this camera to me, they wanted me to review it. And I said, on one condition, that you give me a camera that I can give away on my live stream. And they said, we'll do it. Now, this camera is not cheap. It's about a $250 camera. And so I'm privileged to have that as a giveaway. So I just want you to know when companies try to collaborate with me and with their products, I'm going to make sure that I'm thinking of you and what I can do to benefit my live streamers. So let's go ahead and make that next week. So those of you that are watching next week, I'm going to give away, we'll do a drawing like we're doing right now, but I'll give away this nice $250 thermal imaging camera that you can see what your bees are going. It's like Superman power. You can have the ability to see through the wall of your hive and see what the colony is doing. And it's pretty cool. After this live stream's over, be sure and watch that video if you haven't already. All right, we're collecting comments. Let's see how we're doing here. Let me get that on the screen here. All right, lots to do. Let's see. How do I do that again? Share my screen. There it is. All right. Boom. All right. Good. Finally got a lot of people on the live stream. I don't want to apologize again. I goofed. I made my live stream unlisted. I work hard to try to get so many people to get onto my live stream, and I made it unlisted. And somehow, so many of you, a couple of hundred of you were so like determined to get on here that somehow, even though it was unlisted, even though the door was locked, you just busted in and got into the live stream. He's like, David's not keeping me out. He can make it unlisted if he wants to. I'm coming in here. But if you missed it, you can watch the replay. And so I'm glad that you guys are finally found a way to get in. The numbers are picking up nice now. So let's go ahead and do the drawing. You ready? This is for the tumbler, the Beak Squad tumbler. Here we go. Let's draw. Who's going to win the tumbler tonight? And we're giving that camera away next week. All right, getting close. All those names are coming up. Oh, so close to Jessica. Donald Stapleton. I'll get it right here. Donald, congratulations. Good deal. All right. So, Donald, you'll just need to email us and let us know that you won, and they'll be able to send that tumbler right out to you. So, email longlanehoneybees@gmail.com within 24 hours. So by this time tomorrow, otherwise we're old and we'll forget what we gave away. So get right on that. Appreciate it so much. All right. Let's see. Want to thank all of you tonight for donating and helping out the live stream. So nice of you. And good to see so many of you in the comment section as well. I want to talk about one more thing. Got about a couple of minutes left. I made a video a few days ago, and it was a video where I had a coffee time toward the end. Now, some of you, I understand, don't really care to hear me talk about life and all that stuff. That's fine. Hey, but some of you do. Some of you have always told me every time I see you, you say, I want more coffee time. So I had a coffee time in a couple of videos ago, And you guys really responded how much you enjoyed that. And I appreciate it. And in that video, I talked about how to be positive when things are negative, and that's, hey, we all face that. And one of the things that I'm learning about people, I've worked with people all my life, and I've learned this, that we're all pretty much the same. We all pretty much go through the same issues. We all pretty much go through the same struggles. We all pretty much go through the same good days, bad days. We're kind of like a beehive. We're pretty similar. We look at bees, it's hard for us to tell the difference between bees. And I know we're all different, but it is kind of unusual that we are so familiar, I think. So, I think it's really important to realize that we do really need each other. Thank you for that for that donation. I appreciate it. And like Sally said, that coffee time came at the right time for her. And so I do like to try to encourage the community of beekeepers. So that's really important for me to occasionally have a coffee time. And I know you guys love it. And so if you're kind of down tonight, I hope you got inspired and encouraged a little bit by being here with us tonight. And I hope you learned a lot, both about how to read your frames and from the questions that everybody asked. And thanks, Homer. Glad you like the coffee time as well. And I'll keep doing more coffee times because, I really do like encouraging people. Gosh, I respond well to encouragement. I'm just like a big puppy dog. And you encourage me and pat me on the head like a dog, I respond to that. You be mean to me and be sour and kind of be not good toward me, I don't respond well to that at all. And so any kind of positive feedback that I get from the audience, from my viewers, from my family here, it inspires me. I've often thought, how long am I going to keep making YouTube videos? When should I quit? When should I just throw in the towel and say, wow, I can't keep up this pace, But it's not anytime soon because I really do love the community. I got to admit, if I didn't have a community that I feel connected to, I would be tempted to say, is this worth it? But I know that I'm helping people both in beekeeping and in life. That inspires me. So I love you guys. I love all of you so much. You mean the world to me. And I mean that. I can't say enough about how fun it is to be with you tonight. And I'm going to say good night. And again, watch this replay. If you're catching just the end of it or something, watch the whole live stream so you can get involved in how to read your frames. I'll see you next week. And don't forget, we're going to give away that special camera next week. So be here for the live stream. I'll try to get it right next week. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here.